He almost threw it away. The envelope was small, folded twice, written in purple crayon. It didn't belong on the polished glass desk in the corner office on the 42nd floor. He picked it up, frowning, ready to call security, until he saw the shaky words on the front, "For the man who owns this building. Please read. If you believe small acts can change big lives, make sure you're subscribed to Kindness Teles. Like this video and share your thoughts in the comments, because today's story might just remind you how powerful kindness can be." Every night at 8:30 p.m., when most of downtown Chicago was heading home, Maria Alvarez was just arriving to work. She would step off the bus with a canvas tote bag on her shoulder and a quiet determination in her eyes. The tall glass building in front of her reflected the city lights like 1,000 tiny stars. Inside were executives, boardrooms, catered lunches, and decisions that moved millions of dollars. But Maria only saw what needed to be wiped down, vacuumed, emptied, and polished before morning. She was 32, with tired hands and a heart that refused to quit. By day, she was a mom. By night, she cleaned offices. Her daughter Sophia was 8 years old and the brightest part of her world. Sophia loved science, hated peas, and had a habit of asking questions that made Maria pause. "Mom, do you think buildings get lonely at night?" she once asked. Maria had laughed and said, "Not when I'm there. I keep them company." Maria had started the night shift 2 years earlier, after her husband passed away from a sudden heart condition. The hospital bills had piled up like unopened mail. The small apartment in Cicero felt smaller with every overdue notice. She had taken the cleaning job because it paid a little more than her daytime diner shift had, and because it allowed her to be home when Sophia got back from school. Most nights, she left Sophia with Mrs. Thompson, the elderly neighbor down the hall who insisted on helping. Mrs. Thompson would tuck Sophia into bed, leaving the hallway light on until Maria came home around 3 a.m. But sometimes, when Mrs. Thompson had doctor appointments or wasn't feeling well, Maria had no choice but to bring Sophia along. On those nights, Sophia would sit quietly in the break room with her homework and a coloring book. Maria would set her up with a blanket and a juice box, kissing the top of her head before heading down the long corridors with her cart. "Don't wander," she would whisper. "I won't, Mom." "Promise," Sophia would reply, her eyes wide with the thrill of being in a skyscraper after dark. The building belonged to one of the biggest tech companies in the Midwest. Its CEO, Daniel Harper, was known for being brilliant and demanding. Employees described him as sharp, focused, always 3 steps ahead. He had built the company from a small startup into a powerhouse with offices across the country. Daniel rarely stayed past 7. He had a condo overlooking Lake Michigan and a calendar filled with investor calls and strategy meetings. The cleaning crew was invisible to him, part of the background machinery that kept everything running smoothly. Maria knew who he was, of course. His photo hung in the lobby near the elevators, smiling confidently beside a quote about innovation. She would glance at it sometimes while mopping the marble floor, wondering what it felt like to carry that kind of responsibility. One Thursday night, everything changed. Mrs. Thompson had been admitted to the hospital for a minor surgery, so Sophia came along. She was unusually quiet that evening, her small fingers tracing the edge of her math worksheet. "Mom," she asked softly, "what does a CEO do?" Maria paused, spraying disinfectant onto a conference table. "He runs the company. Makes big decisions. Makes sure everyone has jobs." Sophia thought about that. "So he's important." Maria smiled gently. "Everyone's important, Mija. Just in different ways." Around 10 p.m., Maria reached the executive floor. The carpets were thicker there. The lights dimmer. The offices larger. She always saved this floor for last, moving carefully, aware that one mistake could cost her the job she desperately needed. Sophia finished her homework and, feeling brave, decided to stretch her legs. She remembered her promise not to wander far. She walked down the quiet hallway, her sneakers barely making a sound. At the end was a large office with glass walls. The door was slightly open. Inside sat the biggest desk she had ever seen. It was spotless, except for a silver laptop and a framed photo of a little girl around her age, missing 2 front teeth and laughing into the sun. Sophia stepped inside. She didn't touch anything at first. She just looked around. There were books about leadership, framed awards, and a city skyline glowing outside the window. She thought about her mom pushing a heavy cart, about the way Maria rubbed her wrists at night. She thought about the overdue notice she had accidentally seen on the kitchen counter that morning. Sophia walked back to the break room, grabbed a piece of paper from her backpack, and began to write. Her handwriting was uneven, letters leaning into each other. To the man who owns this building, she wrote. Hi. My name is Sophia. My mom cleans your office at night. She works very hard. She is the best mom in the world. She says everyone is important, even you. I just wanted to ask if you know her name. It's Maria. She gets home very tired but she still makes my lunch. If you see her, can you say thank you? Because I think she deserves it. She folded the paper carefully and, with a deep breath, placed it in the center of the desk. Then she ran back to the break room before her courage disappeared. The next morning, Daniel Harper arrived earlier than usual. A major investor meeting had been moved up, and he needed to review numbers before 9. He walked into his office with his usual brisk pace, setting his coffee down without looking. Then he noticed the envelope. It didn't match anything else in the room. He picked it up, irritation flickering. Security was strict. How had something been left on his desk? He opened it, expecting a complaint or a prank. Instead, he found purple crayon. As he read, the room felt strangely quiet. The city outside seemed to pause. He read it once. Then again. Do you know her name? The words echoed in his mind. He realized he didn't. He had never once asked. That afternoon, he called facilities and asked for a list of the night cleaning staff. The manager sounded confused but complied. Maria Alvarez. Age 32. Night shift, executive floors. That night, Daniel didn't go home at 7. He waited. At 9:15 p.m., he stepped out of his office just as Maria was wheeling her cart down the hallway. She froze when she saw him, her face draining of color. I'm so sorry if something was out of place, she rushed to say. We always follow protocol. Daniel shook his head slowly. You're Maria? She nodded, bracing herself. I read the letter, he said. Her heart dropped. Letter? My daughter left it, Sophia's small voice piped up from behind the cart. She had followed her mom, unable to resist peeking. Maria turned, mortified. Sophia. I told you not to. Daniel held up a hand gently. It's okay. He crouched down to Sophia's level, something he hadn't done in years. You wrote me a very honest letter. Sophia swallowed. I just wanted you to know my mom works hard. Daniel looked at Maria, seeing her differently now. Not as part of the background. But as a person carrying more than a mop and bucket. She does, he said quietly. Over the next week, something shifted. Daniel started staying late more often. Not to monitor, but to observe. He noticed how carefully Maria wiped every surface, how she straightened chairs even when no one would notice, how she hummed softly while working. He asked about her schedule. Learned about Sophia's love for science. Discovered that Maria had once dreamed of becoming a nurse but left college when Sophia was born. One Friday evening, he called Maria into his office. She looked terrified again. I want to start something new, he began. A scholarship fund for employees and their families. Education, training, college tuition. I've been meaning to create a community initiative. Sophia's letter reminded me why. Maria blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. And I'd like you to be the first recipient, he continued. If you still want to study nursing, we'll cover the costs. Flexible hours. Benefits. You've already shown the kind of dedication we value. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. Why would you do this for me? Daniel glanced at the folded letter on his desk. Because someone reminded me to learn your name. The months that followed were not easy. Maria studied during the day, worked fewer hours at night, and leaned on the new childcare support program the company introduced. Daniel didn't just write a check, he restructured policies, increased wages for the cleaning staff, and created a recognition program for behind-the-scenes workers. And every so often, he would receive a new drawing in purple crayon. Sophia liked to update him on her science projects. Years later, Maria stood in a hospital hallway wearing scrubs instead of a cleaning uniform. Sophia, now in middle school, hugged her tightly after her first shift as a licensed nurse. Across town, in a high-rise office, a framed purple letter hung on the wall behind a CEO's desk. Not as a reminder of charity, but as a reminder of perspective. One small note. One brave question. That was all it took to change the direction of several lives. Kindness doesn't always arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it's written in crayon by a child who simply wants her mom to be seen. When we pause long enough to notice the people who keep our world running, we create room for something powerful to grow. So tonight, think about the names you might not know yet. Say thank you. Ask a question. Share your own story of unexpected kindness in the comments, because you never know who might be waiting to be seen.